Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi Marty, I am really excited to have my very first Lake Tahoe podcast guest on the podcast.
Oh wow, I feel privileged.
And I'm really happy because you're sitting outside and everybody can see the beautiful trees that we have in Tahoe if they're watching the YouTube video.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. How are you feeling today?
I'm good today. It's a beautiful day. It's nice. It's warm, and warm days make for a great evening. So
yeah, that's true. Did you work a little bit this morning?
I did, and so I just finished up, and then I'll work again after this. But yes.
Okay. Very nice. Well, we're really excited to have you today. As I mentioned to you before, I received a lot of questions about my backstory. So I said I might as well just ask Marty to come and have her speak on the podcast.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I'm excited. A little bit nervous.
No, don't be nervous. It's going to be great. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So how did you get into physical therapy? And just tell us.
Well, I'm actually from Tahoe City, and I went to school down at UC Davis thinking I was going to be an attorney, and I was studying political science, but I didn't like political science. I didn't do very well. So I went to the Career Center and I started taking internships, and I did one in physical therapy, and I actually ended up working there for 3 years. And then after I graduated from UC Davis, I decided to apply to physical therapy school. And I got in at USC. Okay. So and that's how I started my journey of being a PT.
Okay, so from trying to be a lawyer to becoming a PT, very different.
Yeah, very different.
So everything is possible, right? In all directions. And how long have you been practicing now?
I've been practicing. I need a gold watch because I'm over almost 27 years.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Time flies by.
Yeah.
And so we met for the very first time in, I think, December 2019 when I had some really bad back pain, and you were really able to help me. And I told already people a little bit about, that you found something very different in my body that I didn't even think was there, first of all, I guess, and then second of all was related to my back pain, which was the psoas muscle. Can you tell us a little bit more about
the psoas muscle?
Yeah.
The psoas muscle to me is probably one of the more important muscles to focus on when somebody has back pain, because it's a lumbar spine stabilizer and it's also a hip flexor. And people always think when they have back pain it's coming from their back, but really you need to always look at the front, and it crosses the hip. It actually is two muscles. It's the psoas and then the iliopsoas. And a lot of people sit, and so sitting is a prolonged activity on the psoas. And you don't really have pain in your psoas, but the psoas attaches onto the vertebrae and onto the disc around in your back. And so if it gets tight in a shortened position, it pulls on those vertebrae. And my street is never this noisy.
We can actually not hear it. I can see that there's a lot of cars that are going by in the background, but the audio is perfect.
Oh, good. I was like, oh my God. But so the psoas is, to get back to that, it's either weak or it's too tight. But and it also dries up as we age, the tissue, the fascia around it. So it kind of is like a shrink wrap. So you got to deform it, and you got to sometimes activate it in people.
Yeah. And that was really interesting for me because I thought for the longest time I have some problems with my disc because my mom had a slip disc when she was in her mid-30s. And I remember it as it was yesterday because I had a lot of pain in my back when I came to see you for the first time, and you were looking at how my knees were functioning and reacting. And you said to me, oh, look at this, your right knee is not really reacting at all. And I'm like, that's really weird. I don't know why it's doing that. My back pain is on my left lower back. And then you released my psoas, which was incredibly painful. If people have ever had their psoas released, they know that it's a very painful thing, but then it really helped with everything. I felt so much better. Now I have a big truck here too.
Oh, good. Tahoe's active.
And so, you know, I think some people that actually heard my story said to me, oh, I wish I would have your PT in my town. And they would be like, what can I do if I have a really tight psoas, or if I'm thinking I'm actually sitting a lot and I have back pain, so maybe it's not my back, it's my psoas now that I'm listening to this podcast. So what can people do to release that?
Oh, to release it. So the first of all, the psoas doesn't stretch. There was a gentleman who did a bunch of studies and he put EMGs on the psoas, and the typical stretch that everybody does is the half kneeling with the arm up. Well, it doesn't gain any length. So you can actually go inside, you can find your belly button and about a 45-degree angle, put your hand into your stomach and then lift up your knee nice and slowly. And if you feel a contraction underneath your fingertips, you know you're on the psoas. So you can hold that there and then bend and straighten your leg. But also there's other things you can do at home to help so it doesn't become shortened by either when you're sitting, because a lot of us sit, you want to maybe put a towel roll underneath your butt, take a beach towel, roll it up so it's about 2 inches high and 2 inches wide, and put it right underneath your sit bones so that your hips are higher than your knees. You want to avoid sitting straight-legged in a recliner. You want your knees bent up in the recliner to kind of take the pressure off the psoas so they're more in a passive position. And then I also recommend people to put heat on their belly. They put a heating pad just to promote blood flow in that area so it softens up and kind of helps relax that tissue in that area. And then I tell people not to do crunches or any type of V-ups, because most people use their psoas, they don't use their abs. So planks are a great exercise, lunges, anything that's functional. You'll build your core, but you won't, injure your psoas or tighten it more so.
Yeah, and those are all things that you told me that I've definitely been integrating. And one tip for people that are maybe now laying down on the floor and they're trying to put their finger into their psoas. They're like, I don't feel it, or maybe it doesn't feel very strong. I actually have somebody else do it for me, because I feel like when we are laying down and we're trying to release the psoas, it's really hard to kind of really get into it because it's a really deep muscle. So ask somebody that you trust to do that movement for you, to hold that hand or those fingers into your psoas muscle. I've also been trying some tools that Marty is probably not recommending live publicly. There's obviously like tools like a Terra cane or something that you could try and use in order to release that as well. But yeah, it's definitely been really incredible for me, because I feel like once you pointed out that my psoas was tight, now I feel like it's tight all the time, because now I'm obviously paying a lot more attention to that muscle group in my body. But it's been an interesting journey, and I'm obviously feeling so much better now after being more aware of it, focusing on strengthening the right muscles, right? Because I think one of the things that's really important to say as well is that the muscle actually, like we oftentimes use the psoas because our other muscles are not strong enough or not firing in the right way.
That is correct. Yeah, so if your rectus abdominis or your transverse muscles aren't working, or your glutes are, not that they're weak, but they could be inhibited, the psoas always kicks in to save you. And so it gets tighter and tighter, and then it gets weaker as it gets tighter.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think one of the biggest things for me that was really eye-opening as well, and something that I always think of you now, Marty, when I have some back pain, because sometimes it still happens, is that I'm actually going outside to move instead of not moving. Because I think at the beginning, when I started to have all of these issues, my first protective mechanism response was not to move and to just kind of lay down or try to stretch or do something that kind of protects that area, the back area, obviously. And now you've said to me, movement is life, and you need to move your body and get outside. And I feel like every time I actually do it, I am bringing more blood flow into my just whole system, because I sit a lot during the day as well, and that's actually helping a lot. So
good.
yeah,
So you want to keep moving, keep walking.
Keep walking. Walking is good, right? It's not about just going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. It's about the simple movement.
Yep, it's about the simple movement, because walking brings back the natural rotation of your pelvis, and it helps loosen up that psoas in a sense. So
great.
Yeah.
And so since we're talking about the psoas and obviously more like the physical strength, but also physical weaknesses, how are like the mental and physical health aligned for you? How are they connected?
Oh, you know what? They're the same. They're one. So if you have a lot of stress in your life, and that stress is going to go to your area of injury or your weakest area in your body. So you always, like when my patients come in, I try to help them to manage their stress, because if they can't manage their stress, they're not going to get better. So yes, stress and mental health are the same. So I always, I teach people how to exhale and maybe give them some cues on managing their stress so that it doesn't go to their area of weakness or their area of injury, if that makes sense.
Well, give us an example. What does it mean to give them some cues?
Some cues. So say if you're having a really bad day at work, and you know you have your anxiety and your sympathetic nervous system is increasing. You know, I'll tell people right when you start to feel that tension in your body and you start to have some back pain, just do some like breathing and exhale and blow all that tension out of you, so that you can start to relax. And that by exhaling, your sympathetics are decreased and your parasympathetic system turns back up. And so then that area, like, so for instance, your psoas won't tighten up more. Or I'll say go for a walk, because walking and being outside in nature usually calms people's nervous systems down and their stress level. And then it helps. Then the walking's not only helping your mental, but it's also helping your physical.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are a little bit of a therapist as well as a PT? Not just physical therapist, but also
I do. It's, yeah, because when you come in to see me, I mean, it's not, yeah, you may have back pain, but there's other things going on that could be causing that back pain, not just the physical. So I think part of it, there is some mental therapy. And I also treat, when you're better, your whole family's better. So I also, by treating you, I'm also treating your whole family then.
And what if I'm thinking actually also about a friend that told me she has a lot of psoas tightness and stuff like that, but she's moving a lot actually. She's a nurse. So she's walking around and moving around a lot, and she has a very active lifestyle. How is that then related with a tight psoas? Is that then more like functionality maybe, or how can they take care of?
So if, like, nurses actually have a very stressful career. So I would have her, I'd say, exhale and maybe just walk with more the purpose of walking, even though she's on her feet all the time walking. That's different than going out for a walk. Because when you go out for a walk, you swing your arms, you have the reciprocal gait. But when she's working, she probably always has something in her hand, a clipboard, an IV pole. She's kind of bending and twisting, and that psoas is kind of shortening, because she probably likes to lean to one side when she either gives somebody an IV or gives them an injection. So I would probably have her work on maybe seeing if she does that, if she favors one side, and to start to use the other side so that she could be more balanced instead of always having that rotation. Because that probably during the first part of her shift, she's ready, she's strong. And then as you fatigue, as your work day goes on, she probably just she uses more of the psoas. She uses the psoas instead of the core muscles. Like when she goes to help a patient move, or as I'm moving in my chair, simulating what the nurse does.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. That totally makes sense. And I think everybody can relate to that as well, right? I'm even like, now that I'm standing at my standing desk, I'm like favoring on the other side. I'm trying to move, of course, but I think that's the problem, the biggest problem, right? No matter if we are having a standing desk or a sitting desk, it's that we have to still switch it up I think they say every 45 minutes or an hour.
At least every 45 minutes, at least every hour, switch it up. Because you can, even if you can have the most expensive ergonomical desk setup, but if you stay there for a prolonged period of time, you're still going to cheat. You can still compensate. You can kind of fatigue, from what I've seen in my line of work.
Yeah.
And with the nurse, back to her really quick.
Yeah.
She needs to maybe stand more of in a staggered stance, with her knee slightly bent. So one leg in front of the other, instead of like dropping a hip. So, because by dropping that hip, you tighten one side of one psoas, and the other side stops working.
Yeah. So it's always a dysfunction basically in our body.
Yeah.
And like preferring one side over the other side.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at my questions here. One of the things that I want to talk with you about as well is that, you know, a lot of people, and especially the audience that I'm addressing, is currently working from home. So they do not have their regular setup, that they might not have their ergonomical setup, especially, right?
Yes.
And because in the office, their company might already pay more closer attention to that. What can we kind of summarize again what you would recommend to people that feel stiff or feel lower back pain when they are working from home all day long?
Well, I would recommend, like, so if you are sitting, to try to get up from your desk or your work position every hour at least. I really believe that people should stretch their piriformis, and pigeon and yoga does not stretch your piriformis, it stretches your glutes. So a way to stretch your piriformis would be to lay supine, which is on your back, and you bring one leg up, the other leg is straight out, and with your leg up, you pull your lower leg into your chest as you push your knee out. So a lot of people call it the figure four, but instead of the figure four, the leg is straight. So your knee, so this is your foot and this is your knee. So I bring the whole lower leg in as I push my knee out. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm trying to think maybe I'll do a video on it.
Okay.
And integrate it into this podcast or do it afterwards or something. But yeah.
Okay. I could do it. I could walk with my laptop and show you the stretch probably. Okay.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, because it's complicated to understand unless you're doing it. So this is my office. I'll turn on the light. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. So really quick, this is the chair with the towel rolls.
Oh, yeah.
So I have this right here with just some towels, and I fold them up, and I sit on those towels so my hips are higher than my knee when I do my paperwork, because otherwise there's a scoop in the chair, and then my back, I lose my lumbar spine curve, my lumbar lordosis. So now, but to the piriformis stretch.
And really quickly as well, comment on this. Yes. When people are driving in their car a lot, they can do that too, because it's the same thing.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, it's the same thing. And all car seats have a scoop, even really nice new cars. So just take these. You can even tape them up so that they hold their integrity, and you can toss it back and forth from whichever seat you are in the car. Okay. So the piriformis stretch. So my leg is down. This leg is here. So I kind of have my knee angling towards my opposite shoulder. So this is my right knee. And then I have the knee kind of, it's kind of heading towards my left shoulder or the center of my chest. Okay. Then I grab my foot and I push my knee out. And as I push out, I exhale. And I hold for 10 to 15 seconds. But you want your foot higher than your knee. So here would be the other side.
Yeah. And one tip that Marty gave me on that stretch as well, which I love that you're showing us that, Marty, is that you can also put the foot against the wall or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can actually lay in a door jamb, because some people are so tight that they have neck pain. They can't really reach their lower leg. So you can come into a wall or into a room and the door is open. So let's see here. Okay. So here's my door. And I would have a towel roll underneath your ankle because the door jamb might hurt. So I scoot in, down and through the door jamb. And then I push my leg out. And my other leg is straight. on the floor. So this way, and if I want more of a stretch, I just scoot further down through the door.
Because then, yeah, the ankle gets basically shorter. Yeah. And can you show us the piriformis if for people that maybe don't know where exactly that muscle is in the body?
Yeah, let me see. The piriformis is on your back. Let me see.
Oh yeah, perfect.
So the piriformis is kind of can you see that right there?
Yeah.
So it's a hip rotator, and it kind of lies. It attaches from like your sacrum down to your not your ischial tuberosity, your greater trochanter, in that area right there. Okay. And so, and it's actually a pyramid shape, so it doesn't like to stretch because it goes in 3 different directions. So that's why you have to try to think about that. You're deforming it as you push through.
And how does it then have to do with the psoas muscle? Like how are these two related?
Well, so if the piriformis gets tight, or the psoas gets tight, say the psoas gets tight and it pulls the femur up to anterior forward, then the piriformis is like in the back going, oh my God, it's so far forward. So it tightens up even more so.
Okay.
Or like say, if you like to, you could either be a soccer player or a ballerina or a Nordic skier, and your lower extremities like to be in external rotation, like your feet are out, then that means that the piriformis is tightening up, and then the psoas is going, oh my God, the bone where I attach is going out to the side, so I'm trying to pull it back around. So I consider the piriformis, because it can stretch, the mediator between the psoas and your back muscle, the quadratus lumborum. Because both of those 2 muscles, the psoas and the quadratus, don't stretch. So, but to influence them and to help take the tension off them, you can stretch your piriformis.
Okay, very interesting. And the reason why we talked about this is because we were talking about what people can do when they are working from home. They feel really tight. So we showed already the towel roll on the seat. We showed the piriformis stretch. What else? Is there anything else that they can do? You know,
if you're at home. So really, if you're at home, you just really want to get up from your position at least every hour and move. Stretch your piriformis. You can place heat on your belly with a heating pad, a hot water bottle.
And maybe more specifically, is there anything that you can also do to improve your posture?
Okay, yeah, so the posture, since everybody's very computer and phone savvy, I say every time you get a text or your phone rings or you hear a beep off your computer, I just want you to take a string from your sternum and just pull yourself up. So you're kind of conditioning yourself every time you hear that beep, that you're like, oh, I heard that beep, I got to sit up straight. So that's how I have people work on their posture.
Okay.
And then also to face everything directly. In a lot of our workspaces, we might, think that we're like, I'm sitting square in front of the computer screen, but actually my legs are to the left. So I have a little twist, and that over a prolonged period of time is going to hurt you. So you really want to make sure you face everything just directly square. And if you have to turn your whole body. So a swivel chair is good, because then you can turn your whole body with a swivel chair instead of just turning your torso.
Super interesting. Cool. So, and another question that I got from one of my listeners was, can you run if you have a slipped disc?
You can, as long as you don't have sciatica or your pain has subsided.
Okay.
You can resume running. That's my philosophy. But you cannot have sciatica down your leg if to start running. If you were my patient, I would make sure that sciatica has been resolved, and you don't have any like back pain from the disc, and then you can resume running. And then you definitely have to stretch your piriformis.
Okay, piriformis. And you said sciatica. Can you explain quickly in case people don't know what that means? So it's like a nerve pain that goes down your leg?
Yeah, so true sciatica is coming from your S1, which goes down the backside of your butt, down your hamstring into your calf. But a lot of times people think that even if they get numbness or nerve pain elsewhere in their leg, it's also described as sciatica because it is nerve pain. But it could be coming from your lumbar vertebrae if it's in the front of your thigh. So that would probably be like L3, L4, L5, if you have pain in the front of your thigh.
And that's basically when the disc is compressed, so the nerve is kind of...
Yeah, so you can get sciatica from a few different things. So you can either have a herniated disc, and a disc is like a jelly-filled donut, and the jelly inside the disc protrudes through the dough and hits the nerve. And when it touches the nerve, it causes nerve pain. It can be numbness, tingling, and even motor loss. So that's one way to have sciatica. Another way to have sciatica is your psoas, because the psoas attaches pieces from its muscle onto the disc in the front, and it could pull on the disc and hit the nerve, and that can cause sciatica. Or your muscles can be so tight, like for instance, your piriformis can be so tight, your piriformis crosses the sciatic nerve, your S1 nerve, and it forms a T, and it can pinch it off, giving you sciatica. So it's not just from a disc or a slip disc. It can be from other things. Yeah.
And why would it be not recommended to run when you have sciatica?
Why? Because then running is actually, I always tell people to get back on the horse. So if that's really what you have always done, you should resume running. But just the pressure on your back when you run, your back stiffens up more, and you lose some flexibility, and it tightens your psoas and your piriformis. So you'd want to make sure that those are all patent before you resume running. Yeah, you're free.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the force of running, the compressive force, it might be too much for your disc.
Okay. And actually, one more question about this. How about walking barefoot?
Yeah, if you like to walk barefoot, I say walk barefoot. Yeah, walking barefoot's a great thing. I think it's good for people to feel the ground with their feet. It strengthens your feet a little bit more. So yeah, walking barefoot's good.
And it might even bring more mindfulness to your walk, right? Because you're paying more attention to what's happening instead of maybe being in your head thinking about...
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, and you're actually becoming one with it. You're grounding yourself because you're touching the soil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Marty, what do you do in the mornings to get your body moving and make sure that everything is ready to go before you start working?
Oh, I usually think about my day, like I look at my schedule and see who's coming in. Usually before I work, I try to go outside for at least a half an hour to kind of just take away, if I have anything that's bugging me, I don't want to transfer it to my patients. So I go outside, I get rid of all my negativity, and I stretch my piriformis because my job, I do a lot of, I like to work from one side. So I make sure that I stretch that side out. And yeah, then I just I shake all my energy, my bad energy away, and I start my day with a good cup of coffee.
Very good. And do you also have a specific routine that supports your mental health?
Every night, so after every patient, I actually exhale so that I don't take on any of their stuff, because I have taken on some of my patients' pains. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my God, that's what they were feeling. And that's that's not healthy. So after every patient, when I wash my hands, I wash them with like hot water, and then I do cold water to just kind of re-stimulate them. And then I just exhale a few times to make sure I didn't take on any of their energy.
Very interesting. Okay. And let me see, is there a book that has changed your life? It could be obviously, physically related, but also completely off today's topic of more like the physical body.
Yeah, actually there is. So how I started working for myself, I had actually a patient who taught me a lot about spirituality, and she recommended that I read Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And I think that kind of changed me in the sense that, we're all working through something. And if we don't work through it in this lifetime, we're going to work through it in our next lifetime. And that all the people that we know now will also be in our next life in some form or another. So I found that book to be enlightening, and it also made me like, death is okay, because you're gonna go into another life form.
Yeah.
So that was actually I think probably life change. That I really enjoyed that book. It was life changing.
So cool. I have read this book, and I do also thought that it was a very powerful book.
Yeah.
I was always torn between, this is too mystical and a little almost scary what the woman is going through, and then it was kind of beautiful, as you said, because it's like, if you don't resolve something in this life, you'll carry it over to the next. So yeah, interesting. Cool that you mentioned that. I haven't had somebody mention this book in the podcast yet, so good reminder.
And the woman who recommended the book, she actually had lung cancer, and she ended up passing away, but she really could take her spirituality, and she kept herself healthy for 5 years, because they had only given her 4 months to live. So to me, that was like, there's that spirituality in your mental health versus your physical health. And she was able to heal herself for 5 years. So that's, I think,
maybe still heal some things that she had to resolve in that lifetime, right?
So
and what else did I want to ask about this? That was really interesting that you said that. Oh yes, that I think you said it earlier, which I love, that you said that it's not, there's mental and physical health, it's all one, it's all connected. Because if we are feeling super stressed, we are holding something in our body, and that is probably getting tight because of that mental problem, right? That mental stress. Besides giving some cues, you already said that earlier, that you're giving to your clients, is there anything else that you feel people can maybe start thinking about if they want to be more mindful of that mind-body connection?
I would just really, really always tune into yourself and say, like, so if you're having pain, okay, where is the pain? I do like Anne Hayes, like how she correlates certain aches and pains in your body to various things that could be happening. But maybe you just ask yourself, what is really bugging me today? And see if you can find the correlation of your stressor and your pain, so that you could change that stressor. So if you can name the stressor, that's like one of the first ways to heal. So
name the stressor, then feel it where it is in your body, and
then see if you can let it go. Right, say, either to give yourself a positive affirmation, and see if you can feel the tension leave your body.
Definitely. I teach that actually too. I'm just talking about emotional agility this month in my membership group, and we were talking about that, how powerful it is to just bring awareness to those tight spots in our body, and how just the simple awareness and talking almost to that body part, seeing what it has to say, help you release some of the that you might be holding on to.
That's a good way to describe it, talking to that body part. Yeah, I like that.
Even though it sounds weird, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I don't really know if I believe that, try it out. It's actually really powerful. I do that a lot, even when I teach, like groups of people in person, which I haven't done in a year, but sometimes I do that in person and just have people do that exercise, and people always say, oh, wow. My neck that felt so stiff, all of a sudden feels a little bit more relaxed, because I'm actually bringing more breath awareness into it. Cool. Great. I hope that we talked about everything today, Marty, even though we had a little bit of internet connectivity issues.
Oh, that's okay. That's part of, like, right now, that's part of life in Tahoe.
But I love that you showed us different exercises as well. I think that was really helpful. And I hope that if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're interested to see how the piriformis stretch is correctly performed, make sure to get over to my YouTube channel. It's Stressed Podcast. And then you can check it out. And I have only to say thank you so much, Marty, for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's my first podcast.
Great, you did wonderfully. I'm really, really excited that you were here, and I will see you next week on Wednesday to get my own psoas released.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marty.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye.